Now, as the G7 summit wraps up today, several key commitments have emerged from the world leaders, among them taking action on the global pandemic and climate change. But China was front and center in many discussions, despite not having a seat at the table. CBC's Tessa Arcilia has the details from Cornwall.
G7 leaders have wrapped up this summit, and as much as it was one that was meant to find solutions to global problems, it was also one that was meant to reestablish their position and relevance in the world. And China took center stage as that legitimate challenge to their shared values. In that final communique, there was specific wording and language targeting China and calling on the country to respect the human rights in Xinjiang and Hong Kong. There were also renewed calls for reinvestigating the origins of the COVID-19 virus. Now, there's also a section in that communique talking about removing forced labor from the global supply chain, which obviously could have economic impact. Now, China was not explicitly mentioned there, but there have been accusations that forced labor happens in the country. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau acknowledged that it is necessary to work with China on some areas, but he said it is also important to put their foot down on other important topics. Take a listen to what he said.
I think in our conversations, we recognize that there are issues in which we will have to engage with China, climate change being a perfect example. But in many other areas, on the economy, on trade, we will find ourselves in a competitive position with China. We will compete with them. And still in a third area, there will be a need to contest China, particularly in the matters of human rights.
We've had some Chinese reaction from the embassy in London. They're saying that, gone are the days where just a few countries are making decisions for the whole world. And they said that world affairs should be dealt in consultation with other countries. And this is exactly what will happen when G7 leaders bring the ideas they came up with here today to a broader group of countries, the G20, which of course includes China. Now, Prime Minister Boris Johnson was very keen to point out that the leaders here today were united. There was common consensus and common ground on a lot of important issues. Take a listen to what he thought of the summit.
I know that the world was looking to us to reject some of the selfishness and nationalistic approaches that have marred the initial global response to the pandemic, and to channel all our diplomatic, economic and scientific might into defeating COVID for good. And I do hope that we have lived up to some of the most optimistic of hopes and predictions.
Well, the jury is still out on that one, as there are criticism that their commitments to the vaccine donation of 1 billion doses is still not enough. It is a drop in the ocean, as well as commitments to climate change, moving away from coal-powered plants. For example, climate activists here have been protesting all day. They said that this is disappointing. What the leaders came up with is simply not enough action and just a lot more promises. Now, the summit may have been over now, but the leaders will still have a lot more meetings. They're on their way to Brussels for a NATO summit. China, Russia, again, will be on the agenda, and U.S. President Joe Biden will be meeting the Russian President Vladimir Putin in Geneva in the next few days, and that's certainly something to watch out for. Tessa Arcilia, CBC News, St. Ives in Cornwall.